Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. One of the greatest prisons a man can ever live in is the prison of fear. Fear has robbed many of their destiny. Fear has kept men small. Fear has stopped people from pursuing what God has already given them the ability to do. The enemy knows that as long as fear controls you, boldness will never rise in you. And let me tell you this, fear is a voice. Fear speaks louder than courage. Fear speaks louder than vision. Fear speaks louder than your own abilities. But hear me, there is a version of your life that only comes alive when you decide, enough is enough, I will fear nothing. Fear makes a man exaggerate problems and underestimate solutions. Fear makes you see giants where there are just shadows. Fear makes you believe you are not enough, when in truth, God already deposited everything you need inside you. You see, life will not wait for you until you feel ready. Doors will not wait until you gather courage. There are moments when you must walk into a situation trembling, yet still move. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to act in spite of it. There is something about positivity, about training your mind to focus on possibilities. If you always expect the worst, you will never prepare for the best. But when your thoughts align with hope, when your mind begins to say, oh yes, it is possible, yes, I can, yes, I will, then suddenly strength begins to rise. Dear friends, do not let fear predict your tomorrow. Do not let fear silence your voice. Fear is a liar. Rise up with boldness, face life with courage, believe in the greatness inside you, and choose positivity even when everything looks dark. Because the truth is this, the future does not belong to the fearful. The future belongs to the bold, the courageous, the ones who dare to try when others sat back in fear. Fear is a voice, and the loudest voice often ruling men's destiny. Have you ever noticed how before you take a bold step, there is always another voice inside you whispering, asking you questions that weaken your courage? You want to start that business, and suddenly the voice comes, what if it fails? You want to speak up in that meeting, then fear says, what if they laugh at you? You want to take responsibility for your life, but fear reminds you of your past failures. Fear is not always a scream. Sometimes it is a whisper, but it has the power to silence the strongest dreams. Fear is a voice that comes uninvited. You do not have to search for it, it comes naturally. Even as children, before we learn to walk, fear whispers, you will fall. Before we learn to ride a bicycle, fear says you will injure yourself. Before we learn to stand before people, fear says they will mock you. Many people grew up never silencing that voice, and so it followed them into adulthood. Now, whenever life presents opportunities, the first voice they hear is not the voice of courage, not the voice of possibility, but the voice of fear. Fear speaks louder because it knows how to exaggerate. It takes a small challenge and turns it into a giant. Fear makes shadows look like mountains. You see a problem that can be solved with one step, and fear paints it as an impossible wall. Think about it, how many times have you postponed doing something because fear convinced you it was impossible, and when you finally gathered the courage and did it, you realized it wasn't as difficult as fear said it would be. That is the deception of fear. Fear is also a master storyteller. It plays scenarios in your mind that have not happened and may never happen. You want to approach someone for help and fear tells you they will reject you. You want to apply for that opportunity and fear shows you a picture of being embarrassed. You want to move forward in life and fear convinces you that you will only meet disgrace. Yet most of those stories never happen. They only happen in your mind, and by the time you realize it, fear has already stolen months, years, and in some cases decades. Look around and you will see people whose lives are held hostage by the voice of fear. There are men and women who have been great leaders, but fear said you are not intelligent enough. There are young people who could have built global businesses, but fear said you will lose everything. There are voices silenced before their songs were ever sung because fear said you will never be accepted. But let us think about this practically. When you learned to ride a bicycle, at first you trembled. Fear said you would fall, and maybe you did fall once or twice, but then something amazing happened. You realized that after each fall, you were still alive. You could still rise again, and soon what once looked impossible became something you could do without thinking. That is exactly how fear works in every area of life. The first time it looks overwhelming, but the moment you step out and prove it wrong, fear loses its power. Fear is a voice that loves to be the loudest in the room. Imagine you are in a dark hall with different voices calling out. Courage says move forward. Faith says it is possible. Hope says tomorrow will be better. But fear raises its volume and shouts louder than them all. The tragedy is that most people only respond to the loudest voice. Yet, the loudest voice is not always the truest voice. Fear may be loud, but it is not always right. Life is designed in such a way that you cannot silence fear once and for all. You can only learn to recognize its voice and choose not to bow to it. Every new level will bring fear's voice again. When you want to change jobs, fear will speak. When you want to relocate, fear will speak. When you want to trust again after being betrayed, fear will speak. But here is the truth: the presence of fear is proof that you are standing at the edge of something significant. Fear shows up when destiny is close, because it knows that if you step forward, your life will never remain the same. So the real battle is not outside. The real battle is in your mind. Which voice will you give the right to control your decisions? If fear is the loudest voice in your life, It will shape your destiny into something small and limited. But if you train yourself to hear the voice of courage and positivity, fear may still shout, but it will not rule you. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in spite of fear. Too many people wait for the day when fear will vanish before they make a move, but the truth is that day never comes. Fear is always present when you stand before something new, when you are about to stretch beyond your comfort zone, when you are about to pursue something greater than yourself. Fear does not leave, fear watches you, and the only way to conquer it is not by waiting for it to disappear, but by acting right in the middle of it. Think about the first time you stood in front of people to speak. Your hands were shaking, your voice trembled, your heart raced, everything in your body told you to sit down. Fear was alive, and yet you opened your mouth and began to speak. That first sentence may not have been perfect, but once it came out, suddenly courage began to rise. You discovered that action weakens fear and silence strengthens it. Courage is not a special feeling that comes to selected people. It is the decision to act when every other part of you wants to run. Imagine a soldier on the battlefield. Do you think he feels no fear when bullets fly? Of course he does. But courage pushes him forward. Courage tells him that protecting others is more important than listening to the trembling in his body. Courage gives him the strength to act in spite of what fear is shouting. Many lives are at a standstill today because people are waiting to feel ready before they move. They want the shaking to stop. They want the doubts to disappear. They want to feel 100% confident. But life does not work like that. The most successful people you admire did not act because they had no fear. They acted because they refused to let fear become the final voice. They submitted their trembling hearts to courage and still moved forward. Think about a young man who wants to propose to the woman he loves. Fear says, what if she rejects you? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you are not enough? But courage whispers, what if she says yes? What if this step changes your life forever? The man may still be nervous, but if he acts, if he kneels down and asks, then he has allowed courage to lead him in spite of fear. Look at people who start businesses. Fear tells them the market is too saturated, the risk is too high, the money will be lost. Fear paints pictures of bankruptcy and shame. Yet courage tells them that the greatest companies in the world today were started by men and women who had the same fears, but acted anyway. They registered their companies, they launched their products, they knocked on doors. They did not wait for fear to end. They acted while fear was still alive. Courage is not about pretending that fear does not exist. It is about looking fear in the face and saying, I hear you, but I will not obey you. Courage says, I may be shaking, but I will still step forward. Courage says, I may be uncertain, but I will still try. Courage says, I may fail, but I will not allow the fear of failure to stop me from even starting. Think of a student preparing for an exam. Fear says you will fail, you are not smart enough, you are wasting your time. Courage says, sit down, study, give it your best. The student may not be sure of the outcome, but if he listens to courage and studies, he gives himself the chance of victory. Fear guarantees failure before you even start. Courage gives you the chance to win. In relationships, fear often whispers, do not trust again, do not love again, do not forgive, you will only be hurt once more. But courage says love is still worth it, trust is still worth it, forgiveness is still worth it. Courage pushes you to open your heart again, even when fear threatens you with pain. In every sphere of life, the people who rise are not those who never felt fear, but those who acted while fear was still present. Courage is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Fear will always tell you that the bridge will collapse, but courage tells you step on it, and with every step you take, the bridge will hold. When you begin to act in spite of fear, something amazing happens. Fear begins to shrink. What once looked impossible starts to feel possible. What once terrified you becomes something you can handle. But that transformation only comes after action, not before. Fear remains strong until you move, and the moment you move, fear begins to lose its grip. Fear exaggerates problems and diminishes solutions. When fear enters your heart, it has a way of magnifying what is small and making it look like a mountain. It paints ordinary challenges as impossible battles. It whispers to your mind that this obstacle is too big, that this problem is beyond your ability, that there is no way out. Fear does not show you the real size of the problem. It enlarges it, it stretches it, it multiplies it in your imagination until you are paralyzed. Think of a child waking up in the middle of the night. The clothes hanging on the chair suddenly look like a monster. The shadow on the wall looks like something dangerous. Nothing has changed in reality, but fear has exaggerated what was ordinary and made it terrifying. That is exactly what happens in our lives. The moment fear comes, it takes the simple and dresses it up to look threatening. Fear will tell you that one mistake means your whole future is destroyed. Fear will convince you that one rejection means you will never be accepted anywhere. Fear will whisper that one failure means you are a failure in life. But if you step back and look clearly, you realize it is not true. Fear has taken a single problem and stretched it to cover your entire destiny. How many times have you avoided doing something because fear told you it was impossible, and when you finally tried, you discovered it was easier than you thought? You were afraid to speak in front of people, but when you did, you realized they were not as critical as fear made them out to be. You were afraid to ask for help, But when you asked, the person was more willing than fear had told you. Fear had exaggerated the danger. Fear had minimized the possibility, and you almost missed your chance. Fear not only enlarges problems, it also shrinks solutions. It convinces you that the answer will never work. You see a clear path forward, but fear says it is too simple. It will fail, it cannot help you. You know that making one phone call could open a door, but fear whispers, they will hang up on you, don't waste your time. You know that one step of discipline, one act of courage, one attempt at consistency could change everything, but fear convinces you that it is useless. Fear always says the problem is stronger than the solution. It makes you believe your weakness is greater than your strength. It blinds you to the resources, the people and the opportunities around you. You imagine a person drowning in shallow water because fear tells them they cannot stand up. The solution is right there, but fear has diminished it in their eyes. Think about students facing exams. Fear exaggerates the questions as impossible, as if no one could ever answer them. Then it diminishes their months of study, making them feel as though they have learned nothing. So they walk into the exam hall already defeated in their mind. Yet when they actually see the questions, they realize they can handle more than fear allowed them to believe. Fear is like a bad mirror. It distorts everything you see. It makes the mountain look higher and it makes you look smaller. It makes your effort look useless and your possibilities look distant. It magnifies obstacles and reduces options. And if you allow that mirror to be your only source of truth, you will never rise because every step will feel impossible. Think of a person standing before a locked door. Fear says there is no key, there is no way in. But the truth is, the key is already in their pocket. Fear convinces them not to check. Fear convinces them to walk away. Fear convinces them the problem has no solution. But the moment they ignore that voice and search, they realize the answer was close all along. Daily life is full of examples. You fear starting a business because the market looks too hard. Fear exaggerates the competition and tells you everyone else is smarter, richer, stronger. Then fear diminishes your creativity, your vision, your unique ideas. But when you finally step out, you realize that what you carry is valuable and needed. You see that others started with less than you and still succeeded. Fear is a thief that steals perspective. It does not only fight you with lies, it fights you with distortion. It stretches the picture of failure and shrinks the picture of success. It shows you how far you could fall but hides how high you could rise. It keeps you trapped in worry, imagining disasters that may never come, while ignoring the small steps that could actually solve the problem. The truth is, fear is never balanced. It never presents both sides fairly. It always adds weight to the problem and subtracts weight from the solution. That is why people stay stuck, not because the problem is unsolvable, but because fear has convinced them it is larger than life and their efforts are too small to matter. Life never waits until you feel ready. You must step out afraid. One of the greatest lies people tell themselves is that they will start when they feel ready. They say, I will take that step when I am confident. I will move when I have all the answers. I will act when I no longer feel fear. But the reality of life is this: you will never have all the answers. You will never feel fully prepared. You will never reach that perfect day when all your doubts disappear. Readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. Think about the first time you tried to swim. You stood by the edge of the pool, your heart racing, your mind filled with what if I drown? What if I sink? What if I cannot handle it? Yet the instructor kept saying, just step in. At that moment, you were not ready, but you stepped in anyway. And even though it was awkward at first, that decision became the beginning of confidence. The truth is, confidence does not come before action. Confidence comes after action. You must move first, even if you are trembling. Life does not pause for your emotions. Opportunities do not wait for you to gather perfect courage. Doors open and close with or without your readiness. How many people have missed golden moments because they kept postponing, telling themselves they were not ready? They wanted to start a business but said, I need more time. They wanted to speak up but said, maybe next time. They wanted to chase a dream but said, I am not strong enough yet. And while they delayed, someone else who was just as afraid stepped out, and that person became the one who succeeded. Look at a young mother giving birth. Do you think she ever feels truly ready for the responsibility of raising a child? Fear fills her mind. Will I be a good parent? Will I have enough resources? Will I fail this innocent life? Yet the baby comes anyway. Life does not ask her if she feels ready. And somehow she rises to the challenge. She learns on the journey. She grows with the process. She discovers strength she did not know she had. This is how life works. The preparation often comes after the step, not before it. So many people wait for perfect timing, but perfect timing is often hidden inside imperfect circumstances. You say, I will wait until I have enough money. But what if you never feel it is enough? You say, I will wait until I have more knowledge. But what if you never stop feeling ignorant? You say, I will wait until I have support. But what if no one comes until you first step out? The truth is, the step itself creates the timing. When you move, suddenly you meet people, suddenly doors open, suddenly opportunities align. Think about riding a bicycle. You never mastered balance by standing still. You only discovered balance by moving, by pedaling even when you were afraid of falling. Life is the same. You cannot discover your strength while waiting. You cannot discover your potential while sitting still. You must step out in motion, even if the fear is still loud. Look at people who have built successful careers. Most of them will tell you they had no idea what they were doing at the beginning. They were afraid of failure, afraid of being rejected, afraid of being laughed at. But they applied anyway, they knocked on doors anyway, they tried anyway. With each step, they gained experience, and with each mistake, they gained wisdom. If they had waited until they felt ready, they would still be waiting today. Fear always tells you that you need more time, but life is not waiting. Every day is passing, every opportunity is moving, every season is shifting. Readiness is not about having everything in place. Readiness is about trusting that you will figure it out along the way. Imagine standing before a stage with a microphone in your hand. Your palms are sweaty, your voice is shaking, your legs feel weak. Fear tells you to put the microphone down and walk away. But if you take a breath and speak anyway, the audience listens, your confidence grows, and suddenly you realize that the only way to overcome stage fright is to speak while you are still afraid. Daily life proves this again and again. You learn to drive by driving while nervous. You learn to work by starting jobs you were unsure of. You learn to love by opening your heart even when you are uncertain. Nothing waits for your perfect readiness. The moment you step out afraid, life begins to respond. Fear may still be present, but courage is born in the act of moving forward. Positivity opens the mind to possibilities. Negativity locks the doors of destiny. The way you choose to see life determines how far you can go in it. Your mind is like a lens, and whatever lens you wear will shape your reality. When you put on the lens of negativity, every opportunity looks impossible. Every idea looks useless. Every person looks suspicious. You shut the doors of your own destiny because you are convinced that nothing good can happen. But when you wear the lens of positivity, suddenly you begin to see what others cannot see. You see light in darkness. You see opportunity in crisis. You see tomorrow in today. Think about two people facing the same situation. One sees the problem and says, this is the end. The other sees the same problem and says, this is the beginning of something new. Both are looking at the same reality, but their interpretation is different. One locks himself in despair while the other unlocks the doors of possibility. Positivity does not mean denying reality. It means choosing to focus on solutions instead of drowning in problems. Negativity has a way of paralyzing you. It feeds your fears, it strengthens your doubts, it keeps reminding you of your past failures. Negativity makes you believe that because you failed once, you will fail again. It whispers that nothing ever works out for you, so why try? And the moment you accept that voice, you stop moving, you stop trying, you stop believing. You literally lock your own future with the key of your thoughts. Positivity, on the other hand, is fuel. It is not ignorance, it is perspective. It says, yes, I know the situation is tough, but there must be a way out. Yes, I know I don't have everything yet, but I can start with what I have. Yes, I know there are giants ahead, but I also know I carry something valuable inside me. Positivity gives you permission to dream again, to try again, to rise again. Look at a student preparing for exams. The negative mind says, I will fail, I am not smart enough, nothing will change. That mindset locks the door before the exam even begins. But the positive mind says, I will study, I will prepare, I will give my best, and if I fail, I will try again. One student locks the future, the other opens it. Life is full of daily examples. Two people lose their jobs. The negative one says, my life is over, there are no opportunities left for me. The positive one says, maybe this is the chance to start the business I have always dreamed of. Two people go through heartbreak. The negative one says, I will never love again, I will never trust again. The positive one says, this pain will not define me, I will heal and I will find joy again. Negativity blinds, positivity opens eyes. Negativity makes you sit in the dark, positivity makes you light a candle. Negativity convinces you to curse the night. Positivity tells you the morning is on its way. Negativity is heavy, it weighs you down until you cannot move. Positivity lifts you up, makes you lighter, and gives you the energy to keep moving forward. Think about inventors, entrepreneurs, leaders who changed the world. If they were negative thinkers, they would have said it is impossible, nobody has done it before, I should not waste my time. But positivity gave them the courage to believe that something new could emerge. Positivity told them that failure was not the end, it was just feedback. Positivity kept their minds open until solutions appeared. Negativity is like a locked door with rusted chains. You sit inside staring at your limitations and you begin to believe that this is your permanent home. But positivity takes the same door and says there must be a key somewhere. It makes you search, it makes you knock, it makes you try different ways until finally the door opens. Positivity does not remove challenges, but it removes the blindfold. It allows you to see that even in the hardest moments, there are lessons, there are opportunities, there are new paths waiting. Negativity locks you in a room where all you can do is complain, but positivity opens a window where you can breathe and dream again. Daily life proves this truth. When you wake up in the morning and expect the day to be terrible, your mind will only notice problems. But when you wake up and say, today will be meaningful, suddenly you begin to notice small joys, small victories, small breakthroughs, the same day, the same world, but a different mindset. Positivity is not a luxury, it is survival. It is the power to unlock doors of destiny that negativity has shut. It is the voice that says, There is still more ahead. There is still room to grow. There is still something beautiful waiting for me. The future belongs to the fearless, not the fearful. Every time history remembers great men and women, it is not because they never felt fear, but because they refused to bow to it. Fear creates excuses. Courage creates history. The fearful always wait for tomorrow, always wait for a better time, always wait for someone else to take the first step. But the fearless, even trembling, say, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? Look around and you will see the difference. The fearful sit on ideas for years. They say the market is too risky, the people will not support me, the timing is not right. They bury their talents in the ground because fear has convinced them that safety is better than impact. But the fearless take the same seed. You plant it in the soil of uncertainty, water it with effort, and watch it grow into something the fearful only dream about. Think about electricity. Imagine if the one who discovered it had been fearful of failure, fearful of wasting time, fearful of what people would say. Today, the world would still be in darkness, but because someone dared to try, because someone dared to be mocked, because someone dared to risk failure, we live in a world illuminated by their courage. The future never remembers the fearful. The future only celebrates the fearless. Fearful people spend their lives in survival mode. They avoid risk, they avoid responsibility, they avoid visibility. They tell themselves, I would rather be safe than sorry. But the fearless understand that safety is an illusion. Even doing nothing carries risk. Even hiding from opportunities carries loss. The fearless know that nothing changes until someone dares to change it. In daily life, you see this truth everywhere. Two students graduate from the same class. One is fearful, saying the economy is bad, I cannot succeed. Jobs are scarce, life is unfair. He waits, he complains, he hides. The other is fearless, saying, I will not wait for the perfect opportunity, I will create one. He applies, he learns, he takes small jobs, he builds connections. Years later, the fearful is still waiting for a miracle, but the fearless has become a miracle to others. Fear will always whisper to you, stay where you are, don't move, don't try. But the future does not belong to those who stay, it belongs to those who move. A man who is fearless enough to begin will always be ahead of the one who is fearful and stuck. The road may not be smooth, but at least he is moving. The fearful stay in one place, rehearsing their excuses while time passes them by. Look at relationships. The fearful say, I cannot open my heart again. What if I am hurt? What if I am betrayed? So they close their hearts and life lonely leaves. But the fearless say, even if I was hurt, love is still worth it. They open their hearts, they try again, they heal, they build. The future belongs to them because love always rewards the courageous. Think about young innovators. The fearful say, no one in my family has ever done this. It is too big for me. What if I fail? And so they never try. But the fearless say, maybe no one in my family has done it, and that is exactly why I must. They step into unknown paths, and they become the first, the example, the inspiration. Fear is like a cage. It promises safety, but only delivers limitation. The fearless may stumble, but every stumble moves them forward. The fearful remain in the cage, watching others rise. The fearless break the cage, even if their hands bleed, because they know freedom is worth it. Life is short, and time is always moving. Tomorrow does not belong to the fearful who are still thinking, still doubting, still waiting. Tomorrow belongs to the fearless who are doing, who are trying, who are building. The future does not ask, were you afraid? The future asks, did you act? The future rewards those who dared to step into it without waiting for fear to leave. When you rise with courage, everything around you begins to align. There is something powerful about the atmosphere of courage. It is almost as though life is waiting to see who will dare, who will take the first step, who will rise in boldness. And the moment you do, things that seem scattered begin to come together. Doors that looked locked begin to open. People you never expected begin to show up. Resources you never imagined begin to flow in your direction. Courage has a voice, and when it speaks through your actions, the world listens. Many people sit back and wait for everything to align before they move. They say, when the money comes, I will start. When the connections come, I will try. When the support comes, I will rise. But life does not work that way. Alignment does not come before courage. Alignment comes after courage. The moment you take that first bold step, life begins to rearrange itself to meet you on the path. Think about a young graduate who dreams of starting a business. He looks at himself and sees no capital, no team, no experience. Fear tells him, wait until you have everything in place. But courage whispers, start with what you have. So he begins small, selling from his bag, telling his story, sharing his vision. At first it looks like nothing, but then people notice his passion. Someone introduces him to a mentor. Another person invests a small amount. Customers spread the word. Slowly, things begin to align. Courage created movement, and movement attracted alignment. Imagine someone who has been silent in meetings, too afraid to speak up. One day she rises with courage and shares her idea. At that moment, she is nervous, her voice trembles, but she still speaks. To her surprise, the boss loves the idea. Colleagues who never paid attention before begin to respect her. Opportunities she never imagined begin to open. Courage aligned her with recognition, with favor, with visibility. Alignment is not magic. It is a principle. The world is designed to respond to movement. Water does not part until Moses steps forward. Walls do not fall until Joshua marches around them. The sea does not calm until Peter steps out of the boat. Courage is the activator. When you rise, when you dare, when you move, things that were hidden reveal themselves. Daily life confirms this. Think about driving at night. Your headlights do not show the entire road at once. They only show a few meters ahead. But as you move, more of the road appears. If you sit still waiting to see the whole highway, you will never leave your driveway. But when you move with courage, the path keeps unfolding. That is how life aligns, step by step, moment by moment after you rise. Courage also has a way of attracting people. Everyone loves to be associated with boldness. When you are fearful, you walk alone because fear repels support. But when you are courageous, people see your fire and they want to join you. Think about leaders throughout history. They were not the most perfect, not the most talented, but they were courageous. And that courage attracted armies, followers, supporters, investors. Your courage speaks louder than your weakness. Consider someone trying to break free from an unhealthy habit. Fear keeps them bound, whispering, "You will never change, you will fail again." But the day they rise with courage and say, "Enough, I will try again," something shifts. Suddenly they begin to find strength they did not know was in them. Suddenly they meet someone who encourages them. Suddenly they discover resources that help. The alignment was always waiting, but it needed courage to release it. Alignment does not mean there will be no challenges. Even when you rise with courage, obstacles may appear, resistance may show up, but courage has a way of making even resistance work for you. Courage turns enemies into teachers, failures into lessons, delays into preparation. When you are courageous, life bends in your favor. Even when it seems to fight you at first, the truth is, courage creates energy, and energy attracts motion. The moment you decide to rise, your actions release a signal. Life hears it, people sense it, heaven responds to it. Things begin to converge that were once scattered. Your courage tells the universe, "I am ready," and suddenly the universe replies, "Then let me align for you." Every destiny waiting to shine is simply waiting for that moment of courage. Not when you have figured it all out, not when you feel no fear, but the moment you say, "I will rise anyway." When you rise with courage, the very things that once intimidated you begin to bow. The very doors that once resisted you begin to open. The very people who once ignored you begin to notice you. Courage does not just change you, it changes everything around you, bringing it into alignment with the path you have chosen. Fear has always been a liar, whispering that you cannot, convincing you that tomorrow is safer than today, deceiving you into silence, paralysis, and delay. But you must understand that fear is not a wall, it is only a shadow. The moment you shine the light of courage, the shadow disappears. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that fear will not control you. The world does not celebrate those who ran away. The world remembers those who stood up, who faced giants, who chose to walk even when their knees were shaking. Listen to me, your life is too precious to be governed by fear. Your destiny is too important to be silenced by intimidation. You were not born to hide, you were born to shine, and shining requires boldness. Imagine standing at the edge of a mountain with wings you have never used before. Fear will say, "Do not jump, you will fall." But courage will whisper, "Jump and you will learn to fly." Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history came not because people had everything figured out, but because they dared to step into the unknown. What if I fail? Fear asks that question. But courage answers, what if you succeed? What if you finally break the cycle? What if your voice becomes the reason someone else rises? What if your step of faith becomes the inspiration that changes a generation? You will never know until you try. And if you fail, at least you failed moving forward, not hiding in the shadows of regret. There are people waiting for your courage. There are lives connected to your decision to rise. Every time you delay, someone else remains in the dark because you refuse to shine your light. Every time you hold back, someone else loses hope because you are meant to be their reminder that courage still wins. Do not wait until everything is perfect, because perfection is an illusion. The road will never be completely smooth. The sky will never be without clouds. But courage is the decision to dance in the rain, to sing in the storm, to walk even when the road bends. Those who wait for perfect conditions never start. And those who never start never see destiny. The power of life changes hands the moment you decide to act. Think of the farmer who plants even when the soil looks dry, yet rains come later. Think of the student who studies even when grades look poor, yet one exam turns everything around. Think of the entrepreneur who begins small, facing mockery, yet years later builds an empire. In every story of greatness, there was a moment when courage spoke louder than fear. You must stop negotiating with fear. Fear will always have reasons. It will always show you statistics. It will always remind you of the past. It will always point to your weaknesses. But courage says, "I do not deny the facts. I simply refuse to be ruled by them." Courage is the ability to look fear in the eye and say, "You will not stop me this time." Hear me, history has no space for cowards. History boasts to those who stood tall. When you leave this world, you will not be remembered for the fears you entertained. You will be remembered for the mountains you moved, the battles you fought, the victories you claimed. Fear tells you to shrink, but courage calls you to expand. Fear tells you to wait, but courage tells you the time is now. Fear tells you to settle, but courage tells you there is more. Life is too short to be caged by what might go wrong. It is better to live boldly and fall than to live safely and never rise. The truth is, this life rewards the bold. Doors open for those who knock with audacity. Opportunities smile at those who dare to try. Even the universe responds to courage, because courage is proof that you are alive. So let the fire of courage burn within you. Let it silence the doubts. Let it break the chains. Let it push you into spaces you once thought were impossible. Speak when fear tells you to stay quiet. Act when fear tells you to wait. Move when fear tells you to sit. You will discover that you are stronger than you imagine, braver than you believed, more capable than you ever thought. Do not wait for the absence of fear, because it may never leave. Instead, carry fear along and still move. Fear is powerless when you choose to act, and as you move, fear will shrink and your courage will grow. The future belongs to those who refuse to be paralyzed. It belongs to those who wake up every day and say, I will not let fear write my story. It belongs to those who choose boldness in the face of uncertainty. It belongs to those who rise, those who try, those who persist. So rise now, speak now, dream now, act now. The time is not tomorrow, it is today. The place is not somewhere else, it is here. The person is not someone else, it is you. Let courage be your voice, your step, your song. And when fear comes knocking, let it find you already walking on the path of destiny, too far gone to ever turn back.